You have questions? We have answers. Welcome to the Therapist Question Box with your host, Miss Lindsay Schiss.
Welcome back to another episode of the Therapist Question Box, where we are not afraid to ask anything. So ask away. Today I have with me Kathy Kinghorn, who's a partner at Therapy Utah and also a fellow therapist. Today we're discussing the complexities that can come with relationships with specifically parents and parents of adult children. You know, Kathy, the population I see most are young adults. They're my favorite population to work with, and many of them struggle with this exact thing. How to manage their relationship with their parents. Maybe it's expectations, demands. It can be a myriad of things. But I see this a lot. I know you've seen this a lot in your practice, Kathy, and also have experience as a daughter, a daughter-in-law, a mother, and a mother-in-law. So tell me, why is this such a tricky time for young adults to kind of figure out their relationship with their parents?
I think it's just a natural time. I think we need to look at it as a transitional time that happens to every relationship. When things change, whether it's location or distance from emotional distance, then it's a natural transitional phase.
And transitions are hard. I'm just going to say that. I'm sending my kids back to school this week, and it's time. They're ready. I'm ready. It's time for structure. But transitions are hard. I know those first couple weeks, I like bristle at the thought of it because it's just uncomfortable. And I as you say that, it makes me think maybe I just need to get comfortable with that transition that's just going to be hard. Like knowing that these transitions are just tricky. They're hard.
Right. And just to be grateful for it. If you're from the parent's perspective, thinking, I've raised a child that's capable of questioning how do they move in this world now that they're an adult. And if you're the in your 20s or the child, you're going, I'm grateful that my parents allowed me to see that it's okay to question and okay to step into my own space. And so it's really can be a time when you're seeing somebody try new skills, the child, and for the adult to let go of old skills.
So interesting that you can flip that on its head and really say, this is actually evidence of a child doing the thing they're supposed to do, is really asking those hard questions, deciding what is right for them. And as a parent, recognizing that this is actually what we hope for, even if it is uncomfortable. So that really leads me to our listener question. This is from a young adult, and I'll just get right into it. Here's the question. I love my parents and have always felt close to them. However, lately things have gotten tricky. I have always felt significant pressure from my parents to share their religious views, but my husband and I are currently exploring our own beliefs and trying to figure out where we stand with our faith. I'm struggling to set boundaries without damaging my relationship with them. How can I honor our journey while maintaining a respectful and loving connection with my parents?
What a great question, because how many of our viewers have that same scenario, Lindsay? It's prevalent. I think the first step is to recognize that you're going to need some curiosity towards your parents. This particular viewer said they have a loving relationship with their parents. It's like, what does my questioning my faith, what does that say about you as a parent? And maybe their parent will be honest and say, well, I've obviously ruined you. It was because I raised you this way, or I did this, or I did that. And it's an opportunity for the child to say, hey, wait a minute, Mom. I want you to know the things that I have taken from you that I value today and will continue to value. You taught me to be a hard worker. I'm a hard worker. You taught me loyalty. I'm loyal. You taught me to be curious about this world we're living in. So helping your parents understand that you're not leaving them. You're not leaving everything you've been taught. You're questioning the religion that your spirituality was based in.
So good. The idea that you're helping you, the turnaround for me is curiosity towards parents. I think sometimes
Mhm.
it's when we're in this space, it's like all about, wait, this is me, this is my experience. But if you can flip it around and say, wait a minute, maybe there needs to be some curiosity around the parents and what their experience is. And also, when you said it's really to recognize, like, these are things that as a parent they taught their child, curiosity, and to
Mhm.
question and to really get curious about what's going on and what they need in their own lives, and that they're doing that exact thing, right? So that's a helpful perspective. I do think sometimes
Mhm.
children, even adult children, worry that the love of their parents might change. What do you have to say to
Mhm.
that? Because that's a big deal. If we feel like we're not going to be loved, boy, that's like survival. At least as a child, and as we grow older, that feels
Mhm.
so compelling.
Absolutely. I think sometimes because they get out of order what is the best approach on this. So what I mean by that, Lindsay, is a lot of time the parent just wants to know why. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to me, to your siblings, the example you're setting, to whoever. It's they start with why, and then the child is also, why can't you just accept this, Mom? Why can't you just understand that I need to know that I believe what I believe? So both sides are focused on the why. I think a better focus is how and what. Hey,
Mm,
Mom, we are in this completely new space, completely. How are we going to move through it and still just enjoy a laugh together, enjoy togetherness? And then once you get the how, it's like, well, what needs to happen for us to get there? And if the child can just bring up, Mom, could we both table the why? Could we not worry about the why? I'm not sure I completely understand it yet. And I know you don't understand it yet. So maybe we just focus on how and what. And that allows some
mm,
breathing space for both sides. And it actually allows the focus to be in the right place. How are we going to show up as loving adults? And what does that look like different now? So it might look like, Mom, one thing that I know works for me is I need a break from maybe being invited to every gathering that had a baptism or whatever it is. Or, Mom, here's what I know. If this how this will work for me is if I continue to be invited to everything, because I want to show my love and support in that way. So either way's right. The child could say, I need some space from those activities, or they could say, please invite me. Don't think that I don't love and support the family and want to show that in a way that I'm not going. But you see where the how and what can clarify some things so both parties know the boundaries.
oh, that's so powerful. The how and the what instead of the why. I do think there are times where this happens and it feels so scary, probably to both parties for very different reasons. And it's like, why, that we don't even feel like we can go out to lunch and connect anymore because there's
Mhm.
this looming why that's
Mhm.
hanging over both of us. But really saying, how do I connect? How do I respect you? How do I connect? And really, what does it look like? And understanding exactly both parties' boundaries around that. Um, one thing I keep thinking as well, I think this, our listener is really saying, like, this is about me. This isn't about my mom or dad. This is my journey. So how do we help a parent, if for our listener, how do we help a parent understand that this isn't personal? This is something that's going on with the child and her husband and trying to navigate this journey.
There's such deep rooted beliefs, and I'm not talking religious beliefs, there's such deep rooted beliefs. If a parent believes that their children's choices are about them, their beliefs are deeply rooted in I'm only good if.
Mm,
I'm only good if I raise children that never leave my faith, that are successful in the world, that give me grandchildren, and once that narrow view is broken, then I'm bad. And it's just black and white. And it's such a limiting belief. And so if you can meet together and come in on a common ground of values, and then the why question, which is about their limiting beliefs, really needs to come farther down the road. I wonder, Mom, if what I'm doing reflects on you. Well, of course it reflects on me. How could it not reflect on me? Okay, and let's talk about that a little bit, Mom. Let's talk about that, because that belief, does that ring true to you in your heart, that my decisions say anything about you as a parent? And if they can have that open dialogue and look at their beliefs and see that they're not healthy, it can crack a door open and start a conversation.
Gosh, it is so true and so hard as a parent to, and again, I'm speaking from the parent's perspective, but to not feel like you are connected with those children's decision, right? That my worth doesn't rise and fall with them. We know that up here, but actually practicing it here is, in our hearts. We know it in our heads. Practicing it in our hearts is a whole different ballgame. One thing you said was about values and understanding values. It makes me wonder, there are probably still some very common values that are still happening that can also be connecting. Why do you feel like values are an important way to start these conversations?
Because it also softens it for the parent to go, wait a minute, can I accept the truth that my child is still living by the majority of my values? They're respectful, they're kind. Now, they might feel like the child is way too open in their where they want to go or do. I get that. But can that child also show up and respect where you're at? So it's interesting to look at our values and see how they play out and see if we can come to, Mom, let's just make a quick list of the values we both hold. Just quick. Let's just run it through. Wow. 9 of 10 of these we still both hold to be true. That's awesome. Let's keep connecting on those. And actually, maybe at a different time, we can take these a step farther and say, well, what belief do we have attached to each of these values? And it's such a gentler way into the psyche of both of you, because it reminds you, we're all raised by imperfect parents. Of course we are. And we grow up as imperfect children. But it can remind you of what was the good that came out of my childhood. What can I really, in all honesty, thank them for? And what am I not yet in a position to thank them for?
Mm-hmm. And that feels like maturity. When I can say, this is what I can thank them for, and this is what I'm not in a place to thank them for. And I'm okay with being in that place and recognizing the good and holding space for the bad and saying both exist together. It was all bad, it was all good. It's the and, right? I say instead of the or, it's the and. There was hard and there was bad and things that happened that were painful, and there was good and there was a lot of things that were really good about that, and holding space for that and instead of one way or the other. And when I think of that, I think that requires maturity on a young adult's part to be able to have that perspective and hold space for both of those things.
Well, and I think it honestly requires maturity on both parts. And it also requires a paradigm shift on your worldview about change. When you change something, you just are a good guesser. That's all you've got. That child may have never questioned their faith before. And maybe they got into a relationship or got with some different friends. And now they're going, wow, I'm not sure why I believed what I did. And their beliefs might change, right? And so they're guessing. They're just guessing. And the parent is guessing too. They've never been here before. And if it's a fear-based guess, they're going to want clean answers. They're going to want to know, well, I'm worried that you're going to do this. I'm worried that you're going to do that. Again, those aren't healthy conversations, but to recognize, hey, we're just guessing through this, Mom, or we're just guessing through this, son. let's see what our best guess is. And let's also, if we make a guess that's clearly wrong, that's not supporting the relationship, let's just call it. Let's just say, you know what? I guessed that I could come to family night. Wow. It just didn't work for me. It was a guess and it was wrong. And I'm sorry. I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. I hope you can understand it was just my guess that was wrong.
Oh, guessing feels like when I hear that, I feel, oh, that feels safe. That feels like if I can guess, I actually can be wrong, because a guess is not a definite. A guess is maybe or maybe not. So what if there is not that safety in the relationship? What if I don't feel I have safety with a parent to say, I was wrong and I guessed wrong? How do we create that safety? Even, like, again, from our listener's perspective. So she's the child. What does that look like? Because you hope parents are the one creating that safety, but they may not be.
Yeah. And in this particular case, the lead in was they came from a loving family. But what you're saying is, hey, some families are really unhealthy and there might need to be more of a separation. What then? And what I would say is, in a healthy family, it's highly likely that you can figure out, how are we going to get through this? And what do we need to get through this together, collaboratively, lovingly? If it's an unhealthy situation, you're going to have to get your how and what on your own. And that's okay too. And it's possible. So it would just look like, how am I going to have a conversation with my parents? And what do I need as a boundary within that conversation? So one way to do it is, maybe I'm not going to text them. That just doesn't end well for us. So how I'm going to do it is either on the phone or in person. What do I need to establish? If they bring up anything about why, I'm going to remind them, Mom, we talked about this. I'm not prepared to talk about my why yet. I just need you to respect that. So you just have to do that hard work of how and what on your own.
Good. How and what on your own, and having a solid boundary, what you will and won't discuss. And you don't need to have a good reason for it. It's just, this is where I'm at right now. And that's a new space for a lot of our listeners that are, these young adults that are emerging and trying to differentiate from their parents, which again is the job of young adulthood. That's part of, that is what we want young adults to be doing, but it can feel really uncomfortable at times. Well, we really hope, as we're talking, I think there is another episode that we need to do as a follow-up here, which is for the parent side. Because I think there's a lot of parents that are going through this just on the flip side and trying to figure out how to navigate this in a loving, respectful way. This can feel really fearful for everybody involved. And often it can come out sideways, and fear, even if it's fearful, it can come from a place of love. And so I think I'd really like to do a follow-up episode on how to help parents navigate this, because I know a lot of parents are experiencing this as well. So really appreciate, Kathy, your insights and the help that you gave us on understanding some of those complexities that can come with young adults and young adult relationships with their parents, and especially when they're changing some of the ways that their parents have, they're finding their own truth and what works for them and navigating that path. Really appreciate the insights that you gave us around that, really going back to the how and the what instead of the why. Really appreciate those insights. If you like this episode, please share it, rate it, and review, and we'll see you next time.